Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess and in today's tutorial we are going to be working on Simon the Snowman. It's really cold here in Canada, so we thought this would be a perfect tutorial for you to learn how to make your own snowman. This is going to be a two-part series. The first part's going to be the head, the eyes, the face detail, the nose, and the earmuffs. Part 2 is going to include the body, the arms, and the scarf. So let's gather our supplies and get into it. So for our supplies for today, I'm going to be using Baby Snuggle yarn. This is a size 6 100% polyester yarn. I'm going to need white for the body and the head, brown for the arms, orange for the nose, and a different color for your earmuffs. It doesn't have to be blue, you can use whatever you'd like. I also, for the earmuffs, like to use this furry yarn just to outline it. So you're going to need some furry yarn if that's what you want to do, but you don't need to do that. And then we're also going to need some black medium weight yarn for the buttons and for the face details. On top of all the yarn, we're also going to need a crochet hook. So I'm just going to be using this 5.5mm crochet hook from Crochet Society. We're going to need a darning needle, some scissors, a stitch marker, some safety eyes. These are, I'm pretty sure these are 16 or 20mm safety eyes. I can't remember exactly which ones these are, but you're going to want them a little bit bigger. We're also going to need some fabric pins and some fiber fill. The stitches that you're going to need to be able to complete this pattern is a magic ring, a single crochet, a slip stitch, an increase stitch, and a decrease stitch. Alright, so to begin, we're going to start off with our head. So we're going to take our color A yarn, so that's going to be white for me, and we're going to take our crochet hook and we're going to start off with a magic ring. So I'm just going to make my magic ring. Now inside our magic ring, I'm just going to make 8 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then I'm just going to pull that tight. And that is round 1 complete. Now this is where you're going to place your stitch marker. I personally like to use a strand of scrap yarn that's of smaller weight than what I'm working with, and I just place it right in front of my very last stitch, and then I will move on to round 2. So for round 2 we're going to do an increase round. So an increase stitch is 2 single crochets in each stitch around. So we have a total of 8 stitches right now. So at the end of round 2 you should have 16 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. And there is round 2. Now with my stitch marker, I just bring it up right in front and I move on to round 3. So for round 3, we're going to do the combination single crochet in the first stitch and an increase in the second. So 1 single crochet in the first and an increase or 2 single crochets in the second. Single crochet and increase. And we'll repeat this 8 times for a stitch count of 24 at the end of round 3. moving on to round 4, we're going to do single crochet 24. So 1 single crochet in each stitch around. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So just finish round 4 and I'll meet you back here for round 5. Alright, now for round 5, we're going to do the combination single crochet 2 and an increase. So 1, 2, and increase. Repeat that again, 1, 2, and increase. And we'll repeat this another 8 times for a total stitch count of 32 at the end of round 5. So I will finish this round off camera and I'll meet you back here for round 6. Alright, so that is rounds 1 through 5 complete. Now for rounds 6, 7, 8, and 9, so 4 rounds, we're just going to do single crochet 32. So 1 single crochet in each stitch around for 4 rounds. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So just finish up rounds 6 through 9 and I'll meet you back here for round 10. Alright, so this is up to round 9 completed. Now we're going to move on to round 10. So for round 10 we're going to start decreasing down. So we're going to do the combination single crochet 2 and a decrease. So single crochet 2, 1, 2. And I like to do an invisible decrease for my amigurumi. So what that means is we're going to grab the front loop only of our first stitch, like our next stitch after, and then the one right next door to it, we're going to grab just the front loop only, yarn over and pull through both those loops, yarn over and pull through. Now you just made 2 stitches into 1. Now we'll repeat that again, 1, 2, and a decrease. So this first stitch, the second stitch front, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. Now we're just going to keep going around doing the same thing 8 times, and your stitch count should be 24 at the end of round 10. Make sure you're in the front loop only. Obviously I can't get into the front loop here. There we go. So I'm just going to finish this round off camera and I'll meet you back here for round 11. Alright, moving on to round 11, we're going to do the combination single crochet 24. So 1 single crochet in each stitch around for round 11. Alright, so once we're completed round 11, we're going to just pause and we're going to stuff our head here before the hole gets a little too small. So I'm just going to take my fiber fill. Now we're also going to place the eyes here. I personally like to stuff first before I place the eyes, just so I can see what the shape of the head is going to be. But you can also place them before we stuff. So once we have stuffed to our liking, I kind of like to pull out my stuffing and then just put a little bit in the center there, just to make sure that all my edges are getting filled enough. And we will have opportunity to stuff once more before we close the head, so it doesn't have to be perfect. But before we continue on with our next round, we're going to place our eyes as well. So for the eyes, I like to place them between rows 6 and 7 of the head. So we'll just count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So I'm just going to pick a spot. It does not matter where you go. I'm just going to place my eye there. And then you want about 6 stitches in between the eyes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm thinking maybe around like here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. And we will be shaping the face to bring it in, so don't worry if they seem really far apart. And then once you're happy with where they're placed, we can place our backings. And if you need to take the stuffing out to do this, you can do that as well. And there are our eyes placed. So now moving on to round 12, we're going to do the combination single crochet and a decrease. And we'll repeat that 8 times for a stitch count of 16 at the end. So I will finish this round off camera and I'll meet you back here for round 13. All right, now for round 13, we're just going to do single crochet 16. So 1 single crochet in each stitch around, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. All right, and moving on to our final round, if you want to just add a tiny bit more stuffing to your head before we move on to this final round, now would be a great time to do that. Let's add a little bit more. Now for this final round, we're just going to decrease 8 times. So we're just going to go around and place a decrease stitch. In every stitch around. So you should have 8 stitches by the end of round 14. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I'll remove my stitch marker and I'm just going to place a slip stitch in this very next stitch here, and I'm going to pull that through, and then I will take my scissors. I'm just going to cut that, and I'm going to pull that through. I'm just going to add a little bit more stuffing. I know it's a tiny little hole, just take a little bit more maneuvering. So just add what you need if you need anything. If not, just skip this part. And then when we're happy with that, I'm just going to take a smaller crochet hook. So this is a 3.25 millimeter crochet hook. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in the front loop of every stitch around. And this is going to close up that final hole here. But we're just going into the front loop, not the whole stitch. You can just pull kind of when we're halfway. And then if you still have a tiny hole left, I just like to make a little knot. So I'm going to pull that through and then just make a tiny knot, and that should close it up. And then I'm just going to cut my tail a little bit shorter here. And then with my smaller hook, I'm just going to weave that in. Just like that. And there is our head of our snowman. Once we have our head completed, we're just going to shape our face here quickly. So I just like taking my darning needle here, and I'm going to take about a 12-inch strand of our medium weight yarn. It does not need to be black. That's just what I have on hand. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our needle and we're going to insert it in the top corner of our eye on the inside, as close to the eye as you can get. Then we're going to push that over to the other eye, same thing, as close to the eye as you can get, and we're going to pull that. Now with this still attached on this eye over here, we're going to go down to the bottom inner eye, and then we're going to push that down to the underneath side here. Now we're just going to take the other side and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go down to the bottom and then we're going to go out the bottom, and I personally like to go through a different stitch. Now this will create an indent in your project, but this area is going to be covered by the body, so it shouldn't be a problem. So this is what we're looking like right now. Now basically what we're going to do is we're just going to pull our yarn tails and it's going to bring in our eyes. Now how much you bring in is totally personal preference. If you only want to bring in a little bit, then just bring in a little. It's really just to give the definition to the face so that's not just flat. And if you've done too much, you can just go in with your hook or your needle, sorry, and just pull it out or tighten it, whatever you want to do. And then once you're happy with how it looks, we're just going to tie a knot here. And then I'm just going to cut these ends. And with my smaller crochet hook, I'm just going to weave these ends in. Just like that. So you can kind of see the definition that it gave right here. This was really flat before. So once we have our face shaped, we can move on to the nose. All right, so for the nose, we're going to be using our orange yarn. I'm not sure if it picks up on camera. This is not the brown yarn, we're using the orange. And to start off, we're going to be making a magic ring. And inside the magic ring, we are going to make 4 single crochets. One, 2, 3, 4. And we'll just pull that tight. And again, I'm just going to use my stitch marker that I used before. Now for round 2, we're going to do the combination single crochet 1 and an increase stitch. So single crochet and an increase. So 2 stitches in 1. And then we'll repeat that again, single crochet and an increase, and you should have 6 stitches at the end of round 2. And then for round 3, we're just going to do 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Just like that. And that is our nose complete. So I'm just going to remove my stitch marker and I'm just going to make a slip stitch into the next stitch here. And I'm just going to cut about a 12-inch strand of yarn, and that's just so we have enough to sew on. I'd rather have too much than not enough. And I'm just going to pull this all the way through. Now we will stuff the nose, but I'm honestly just going to stuff it with my yarn tail here from the magic ring that we made. And even that's probably going to be a little too much. So I'll probably just cut that a little bit. And there is our nose. So now we are going to sew this on. Now we placed the eyes on rows 6 and 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we're going to place the nose on rounds 7 and 8, right between the eyes like this. Now I'm just going to take my fabric pins and I'm just going to tentatively place this nose so that I kind of can get an idea of how it's going to look and make sure I like it before I sew it on. So there's the nose there. Now once I'm happy with that, I'm just going to take my darning needle and my yarn end and I'm going to sew that on. Alright, so once that's sewn on, I like to just make a little knot. So I just go under here, and then I'm going to go through this loop, make a knot, and then I'm just going to push that down underneath the head, again, where this is going to be covered by the body. And there is our little carrot nose attached for our snowman. Alright, so once we have our nose and our eyes completed, we're just going to do our face detailing. So we're going to need 2 strands of our medium weight yarn. For this, I'm going to be using black, and we're going to be doing our eyebrows and our smile. You do not need to use black. You can use any color you want, but I'm going to use black for mine. So I'm just going to place one of my strands on the darning needle for now, and we're going to work on the eyebrows first. So what we're going to start with here is we are going to insert our darning needle. I kind of like to insert it on the side of the head here. And we're just going to insert it 1 stitch over from the center of the eye here. And this doesn't have to be perfect. You can place your eyebrows wherever you'd like. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go up 2 rows, and we're going to go up over about 2 to 3 stitches until you reach the center of the top of the eye. Then we're going to push our yarn and our needle through to the other side, and we're going to repeat the same thing. And then we're just going to push this back over to where we started. Now I don't love the placement of this one, so I'm just going to redo that. And this is just kind of the game we play with this stuff. Just kind of do what you feel is right and what looks good, because you want them to be symmetrical. Sometimes the stitches aren't perfectly centered on both sides, and that's okay. So we'll do that. Yarn is pretty forgiving, so that's better. You can just pull your eyebrow out if it's being pulled too much. So there's my eyebrows. Now I'm going to take my darning needle and use the second strand of yarn that I have. And I'm going to be inserting my darning needle around the same spot on the side. That's kind of where I usually do it. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to place it about 2 stitches over from the nose and 1 row down. And I'll pull that through. Now I'm going to go over to the center of the nose here and down 1 row. So I'm in this row right here. I'm just going to the bottom of that same row. And then I'm just going to push my needle over 1 row up again and about 2 to 3 stitches over. Like that. And if you just want to leave it like a side smile, I think that's cute too. Or you can just put it right back into the center and then push it through the other side to make a full smile, like that. Now with our yarn ends here, we're just going to tie very light knots. You don't want them to be too tight or they will pull your smile and your eyebrows tight. So we'll just do light knots. And then I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut these shorter. I'll take my smaller crochet hook and I'm just going to weave these through here. Just like that. Now, if that process of weaving in your ends pulled in your eyebrows, you can just pull them out, and same with your smile. And there is our snowman's head. All right, moving forward, we're going to start on the earmuffs. So you're going to take your color D yarn. So I'm using the blue, whatever color you want to use. It does not have to be blue. And we're going to start off with a magic ring. And then once we have our magic ring, we're going to make 6 single crochets within the ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And we'll just pull that tight and place our stitch marker. Now moving on to round 2, we're going to do an increase round. So increase stitch in every single stitch around for a total stitch count of 12 at the end of this round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Now for round 3, we're going to do the combination single crochet and an increase stitch. Single crochet, increase, repeat that, single crochet, increase. We'll repeat this a total of 6 times for a stitch count of 18 at the end of round 3. Single crochet, increase, single crochet, increase, last time single crochet and increase. Now moving on to round 4, we're going to do 18 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Now, once we reach this 18th stitch, we're not going to finish off our single crochet like we normally will, because we're going to do a color change or a yarn change. We're now going to grab our fluffy yarn that we're using for the earmuffs. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that fluffy yarn and we're going to wrap it around our hook, and we're going to finish that single crochet of the last single crochet of round 4 with that yarn. And now we have our new color attached. And now with our new color, we're going to do single crochet 18 around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Now we're just going to slip stitch into this first stitch over here that we made to finish off that round. We'll take our scissors and we'll just cut that, and we'll also cut our blue yarn. And then we'll remove our stitch marker. Now for this color change here, I just like to tie a really light knot just to secure that. And then I'm just going to stuff all those yarn tails inside. Then I'm going to pull this slip stitch all the way through like we have in the past to finish off that round. Now sometimes with this fluffy yarn, I find it just needs a little bit of help to get the fluffiness out because you've crocheted it in, so sometimes it's too neat for my liking. So I just like to bring it all out. And then there's 1/2 of our earmuffs. So you're going to have to make one more of these, so just go back and re-watch the pattern again to make a second earmuff, and then we will meet back here to make the top band of the earmuff. Alright, so once we have completed both of the earmuff portion, the muff portions of the earmuffs, we will quickly make up the band. So again, we're going to take our color D yarn and we're going to make a slip knot. And once we have our slip knot, we are going to chain 13. So chaining, we're going to yarn over and pull through. That's 1. We're going to do that 13 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So that's what our chain row is looking like. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to skip this very first chain closest to our hook, and into this second chain we're going to place a single crochet. And then we're going to place a single crochet in every chain along. Now we started with 13, we skipped the first chain, so we just should have 12 remaining. So single crochet 12 along. Now once we reach our 12th single crochet, we're going to be changing color again, similar to how we did with our earmuffs. So I'm just going to cut this blue yarn here. And I'm going to grab my new color, which is the fur again. And once again, what we're going to do is we're just going to finish off that last stitch with our fur. And then again, I'm just going to tie a little knot here, just so that that doesn't move anywhere. Now what we're going to do is we are going to place one single crochet in each of the bottom chains along, and then we're going to work our way on top and place a single crochet in each of these stitches. So there should be 12 on the bottom and 12 on top for a total of 24. So we will just start here on the bottom with a single crochet in our fluffy yarn. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10, 11 and 12. So there is the top row, or I guess it'd be the bottom of our chains completed. So once we have that side done, we're going to now move onto the top side for another 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. We will just slip stitch into the first single crochet we made over here and leave about a 12 to 16 inch strand, just so that we can tie this on, and we'll just pull that through. And there is our band for our earmuffs. Super fluffy, super fun. So now once we have all that, we can start sewing it on. So we'll grab our the head of our snowman, and what we're going to do is we are going to attach it right on top, and we'll start off with our band. So the band is just going to sit right on top of the head, and then the earmuffs are going to attach on the side like this. All right, so we're just going to place that on top of the head, and you just want it centered on top of the head. And if you need to, you can just place a couple fabric pins here just to hold it in place and make sure that it's in the right spot. It should be going right over round 1 in the center. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our yarn end that we cut specifically for sewing on, so the longer one of your yarn ends, and we're going to put in our darning needle, and then we're just going to sew on the fluffy part of the earmuff. Now this fluffy yarn is pretty forgiving when it comes to sewing on. You can't really see it, so it doesn't not have to be perfect. And it doesn't have to be every single stitch. Just going to put it just through one at a time because it's catching, which is totally normal. And then just don't forget to take out your fabric pins. And just, I always just like to make sure that I'm in the right spot still. Now I don't like it to be too stuck on the head, so I'm just going in and I'm just lifting up the edge so it's still sewn on, but it's not like tight to the head. And then I'm just going to sew on the top here, or the front part. Now we can just stuff these yarn tails right inside. I may even just cut mine a little bit because they're a little long. And then those can just be stuffed right inside along with this yarn tail. And it's kind of on the wrong side, so I'm just going to bring it through. And stuff that before I finish off sewing this on. Go through and loosen it again. And then once I'm happy with that, I'll just tie a little knot and then weave in my ends. Got that. And there's the top portion attached. All right, so we are now going to sew on the ear muff portion of the earmuffs. So what we're going to do is we're just going to place the earmuff basically on the side of the head, centered with our earmuff band, and it should look about like this on the when you're looking at the front. And then we're just going to take the darning needle. You can pin this in place first with your fabric pins as well. I just, for this guy, I find with the fluffy yarn it's hard to see the pins. So I'm just gonna start sewing this on. Now once we're about halfway sewn on, we'll just put a little bit of stuffing in our earmuff here. So I'm kind of about at that spot right now. This is what I'm looking like with how much space I have left. So I'm just going to grab a little bit of fiber fill. It does not need a lot. And I'm just going to lightly stuff that just to give it some, so it's sticking out a little bit more like an earmuff would, like it's on top of an ear and nice and fluffy. And then I'll just continue to sew that on. This yarn can be very difficult to work with sometimes, but it looks so good. So sometimes it's just so hard to not use it. There we go. So there's one side attached. Now I'm just going to make a little knot here. I don't even have enough of my end, so I'm just going to push it back into the very back here, and I will tie a knot with the other side yarn end. So there's that side attached, and then we'll just do the exact same thing with the other side here. Again, just making sure that you have it in the right spot. Centered on the ring there. And then we will just start sewing that on. Then I will just push this back to where my other end is, here. And I'll just tie a little knot to secure that. And then I will just weave that in. And there are our earmuffs attached. We have our band and our earmuffs all attached. And that completes our head. And that is the end of part 1. Head over to part 2 where you will learn how to make the body, the arms, and the scarf. Bye!